Hello, hello. Thank you everyone for coming. I need to learn how to speak again. It's been a while since I hosted. Thank you everyone for coming for this February edition of EdinburghJS. We have a couple speakers. One is just a lightning talk. The other one is going to be a longer talk. And thank you for Perk for hosting this, the guys from Perk. There will be lightning talk from Steve from Perk. I don't really know what else to say. Let's just start this. Welcome, Steve.
Yes. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, nice. Hi, my name is Steve. I work here at Perk, and we're Perk. We were before Travel Perk, in case you knew the company from earlier. We are working on building a platform for managing business travel and expenses. And as you can see there, we're hiring. So if you're interested, apply. And you might be wondering, like, why should you apply? Like, what is interesting about working at Perk? For that, I would actually like to highlight the path of Michaela here, my colleague. So she's been working at Perk for 6 years, and she started as a business travel consultant. From there, she moved to incident management. From there, she moved to project management, and now to product management. So yeah, I think that's a great thing about Perk. Like, we have these opportunities to move in our careers and improve as we like. And yeah, my talk today is about some other cool thing I'm doing at Perk now. And it starts with actually a question that keeps me up at night, which is, why do some tech products fail and others succeed? And yeah, I'm the kind of weird person who asks himself these questions, and they're very important for me. And this is because I consider myself a product engineer rather than an engineer. I really enjoy all the different aspects of building a product, and the meme in there contains part of the truth. So a product engineer is essentially just an engineer who also has some technical, like, project management skills and knowledge, and they use those for building great products. And how you become one of these, in my opinion, obviously there are many opinions, but in my opinion there are 3 different areas to focus if you want to be a product engineer. And those are the product understanding, so a focus on understanding why we're building the product. And when I think about this, I always remember my daughter. So she's 3 years old, and I think she will be a great product engineer because she always keeps asking the question, why? She's like, why? And that's actually what you want as a product engineer. You want to be asking, why are we building this thing? Why is this important for the users? And why is it important for the company as well? You have to understand how it fits into the mission of the company and the goals of the company. And the second part of it is focusing on the impact. And in this case, I'm talking about product impact. So impact on how it affects the user rather than the technical thing, which is sometimes difficult for us engineers because we like the technical challenges. We like to do the difficult technical thing, but that might be the most interesting for the users. So that's the other pillar. And then the third one is the communication. So this again is another part that I think that as engineers we neglect sometimes. We don't really think much about communication, and it's important for engineers, like normal engineers. But if you're a product engineer, I think it's essential. Like, you need to get this right. You need to convince people of the approaches that you're taking. You need to convince them of, well, not convince them, but you also need to talk with a lot of stakeholders, not just like product managers, but also like go directly to salespeople and understand like what are their problems, and understanding your users, maybe talking directly to users. And yeah, if you get this right, I think you are in a good way to become a product engineer. And for me, these 3 things come together when I started working in a new project here at Perk, which is an ideas incubator. So we have these, essentially it's kind of like creating a startup inside the company. That's what we're doing. And I presented an idea for this, and they liked it. So now I'm part of this. I've been doing this for 2 weeks. And the idea with this is that for 3 months we're going to be working on this, and we're going to be exploring essentially an idea that might be not completely related to what we're doing right now, but might be interesting for the future. So it's kind of like they are sending 3 explorers to see what's behind that mountain. And then we come back and then we say like, okay, this is worth going, like we want to go there. Or we might say like, there is nothing there, like we shouldn't go in this direction. So that's kind of like the 2 outcomes. And then yeah, the goal of this, ideally for me, will be to have a new product. And as a product engineer, I really enjoy building products. And if I have the opportunity to build one from the scratch, for me, it'll be great. And then for the company, if we end up building a product, it's a new product for the company, so everyone wins. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be working on these 3 months. We have 3 months of complete freedom. And by this, I mean like we're not following any of the normal processes that you normally follow as an engineer. We don't have to do Jira, we don't have to do planning, you don't have to do all that stuff. That is necessary, but when you have only 3 months to do something, like you have to skip a lot of this. So yeah, that's really interesting as well. We have this time pressure of getting something done in 3 months. And then the last is we're 3 people. So it's just myself, a product engineer, our product manager, and another engineer. The 3 of us are working on this thing for 3 months. And as we are kind of our own startup, we have to do everything between the 3 of us, which is again very interesting for me because I like all these different aspects. So it's not just the product management and engineering. We have to do design ourselves. We have to do sales. We have to do user research. Everything else that in a company you get like someone, an expert doing that, we have to do it ourselves. So yeah, that's a really interesting opportunity. And yeah, where everything comes together for me is this Ideas Incubator. For me, it's an opportunity to apply product engineering, but you can apply product engineering even if you're not doing this. This is not in your control. If you're working, this is not in your control whether your company creates an Ideas Incubator and you can participate in it, but it's still in your control to do product engineering. I think it's kind of where the whole professional software engineering is moving, so I think that's a great thing to focus on. And yeah, like if you want to start on this path, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is start by understanding the product. Talking with a product manager, understanding why we're building this thing, maybe even like being involved in customer calls. I think that's a great way to develop empathy with the user. So if you can, do it because it's great. And that's it. I have some more thoughts on product engineering. I wrote a blog post about it. It's in the builders.perk.com website. We have a lot of blog posts in there, not just mine, all from different engineers, product managers, designers. Very interesting. It's not Perk specific either, so you can get very interesting information and insights even if you're not doing anything with Perk or you're not interested. I will still recommend it. And yeah, that's me. Thank you.
That was very interesting. Yeah, thank you very much for this talk. We have time for a couple of questions. If anyone has any questions?
I was leaving.
Surprise.
We're done. Yeah.
Okay, I'll need to run. 1 second.
Hello. I guess my question is, are you working solely on your incubator product full-time, or are you also working on a separate team as well? And can you tell us more about your incubator project?
Yeah, I didn't mention the topic because they told me it's secret. So that's why I didn't say anything. I just kept it very high level. Yes, we're working on this full time. So we're working in different teams, each of us. They got us all together from these different teams and they put us in this incubator. And that's the thing we're doing for 3 months. We're not doing anything else. It's not a side project, it's our whole work for 3 months.
Oh, and there was one more question, James.
What, in your opinion, are some common misconceptions that developers and managers might have about what makes a good product?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there is always this, it's not a fight, but this conflict between product management and engineering. With engineers, we want to build stuff that it's solid and that it's reliable and everything. And in product, yeah, you're more interested in the features. Like you want to move fast, you want to create these features for your users. Sometimes you want to just find the product market fit. And it's like, okay, like I don't care if this is not reliable, like I still need to build this thing. So I think that's one of the conflicts maybe that there are between product managers and engineers, but it doesn't need to be. Like, it's just alignment essentially. It's just like finding an understanding from the point of view of engineering that sometimes it's like we can't really make things reliable because this thing might not be here next month. So what's the point of like making that extra effort to make it really nice and reliable if, yeah, it's not important. And then obviously from the point of view of product managers, understanding that if we're moving fast at some point, we will need to come back to this and make it reliable if we want to keep building on top of it. Yeah?
Great. Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions, unfortunately, but I'll still be around after.
Yes, I will be here.
For more questions. Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Cool. Now we have the main talk of the night with Alex talking about WordPress, Next.js, and Cloudflare. Welcome. Yeah, let's go.
Let me just move it there. Hope it's gonna work. Guys, it's really hot. Just let me to used to it. I guess it should be fine like this. It's really hot here. Like, take a minute just to put down some of your clothes because like you're gonna die in 30 minutes. Okay. Okay, are we good? Yeah, so I put this QR code here. So basically the idea is there are a lot of information there, and maybe some of the information you're gonna miss during the talk, or maybe it's gonna be difficult to read, etc., etc. So everything is like available through the QR code, and maybe someone from the back like would be easier to read it from their phones rather than from here. So yeah, the first question, who I am, what I'm doing here, why you should listen to me, like can I tell something interesting to you, or maybe I'm some weird guy. So I'm currently working as principal software engineer in teaching strategies. It's a US-based company developing products, facilitating education for small children in US. In total, I have around like 14 years of experience. During this period, I was doing mostly backend development. We did PHP development, we did Golang development. I was just engineer, I was like technical leader, I was engineering manager, architect. Like I was pretty much in all the roles, like you can imagine for the guy. 3 years ago, managed to finish a high-performance computing degree in University of Edinburgh, which was a good experience so far. And maybe some of you have seen me as a Tech Talk founder. I was running through the people like on left and trying to make photos of you or like invite to come to the next Tech Talk. It's actually a good one. Yeah, so I'd like to start with huge thanks to Jamie and like JavaScript meetup Edinburgh overall for allowing me to speak here, for having such a great community, and yeah, really my pleasure to be here. Yep, and here we go. The first thing I want to say is like I'm just dedicated like to talk for 30 minutes. That's not much, and yeah, hope I will try to put as much as I can in it. The topic is very wide, so WordPress itself, Next.js, Cloudflare, it's a very wide topic. You can talk about each of them for like an hour or two, or even more. We can continue discussing it like with the beer afterwards. But yeah, so the idea is just to give you like basic understanding the approach, directions, and maybe like you can use some of the links I put in the presentation just to get some extra knowledge or like understanding. So the problem I'm going to cover is basically WordPress is like very popular solution. You pretty much everyone know about it. Maybe some of you host it. Some of you trying to run it now, like in your company or like for your personal project. And as like JavaScript community and like maybe you are JavaScript engineers, you probably have some concerns about WordPress. So it's kind of like PHP made, right? So like if you want to work with it, you need to be at least familiar with what PHP is and how it's gonna work, how to run it locally, how to run it like maybe in Docker, or like how to do like team development, all of those legacy functions, function PHP, index PHP, and other files that you need to be aware of. That's kind of like something many developers doesn't want to work with. On the other hand, if you go like and try to search some nice UI, some ready-made theme, or like you get some design and then like you have front end made by this design, it's usually never made like for WordPress. It's made like with some popular front-end framework, Next.js, like with Vue and Astro, like Astro, or pretty much like anything else. And the thing is, like, yeah, like it's not about WordPress at all. On top of that, if you try to deploy a WordPress website and have it running like for a week, you see how it's probably gonna be DDoSed or like try to be hacked or try to be like injected with some kind of like SQL injection or like get some write permissions from your server. Because like all of those scanners, they see that your website is WordPress and like that's what they're gonna do like in the very first moment of your site available through the internet. And on top of that, since it's PHP, it lacks all of those nice fancy features that modern JavaScript frameworks has. That is why like it's kind of like problematic and maybe one more reason why people doesn't want to work with WordPress. However, like it's still kind of like decent tool. It has a lot of good things developed so far. It has a great admin panel. It has a great content structure model, all of those relations and all of this stuff. And sometimes you just have kind of like legacy project written with WordPress and you need to support it in some way. But yeah, there are those buts with which you need to work with. And for me personally, like I had one WordPress website I was working with, and I was thinking about getting some new UI for it. And once you go to the internet, the first thing you find like is like Tailwind Plus. Like it has nice, good-looking templates. Everything is like React Next.js. Then you have like another blog. You have React Next.js. Then you go somewhere else, it's also React Next.js. So this is pretty much everywhere. And as the guy who like hosts WordPress website, what can I do? So getting back to my experience, in the past I did a lot of like API development, a lot of system integrations. I did a few public APIs for SaaS companies, and those companies like did integrations, B2B integrations, trying to connect huge amount like with extensions, and like we try to develop our own extension platforms. So one of probably my strengths is how to connect something not connectable. And then I came to the idea, so what if we can keep something good that WordPress has? It's a content model, it's admin panel, the way how it works behind the scenes, while doesn't have while trying to get rid from all of those problems that I mentioned before. And the idea came to me to make it kind of like headless. So basically we trying to expose some kind of like API, and then we're trying to connect a separate frontend, which is gonna work with this API without all of those PHP mess, all of those temp development part, and any pretty much other things. So on this slide, you can see that on the left we have pretty much common PHP server structure where we have front-end rendered by some PHP script. In WordPress structure, it's usually like some kind of part of a team, and then we have some core functions, and then some static, and all of this handled by the same server, and this goes together. This can be split and optimized. There is no questions about it. I even have some slide after the questions. I can show it if you want. But the basic idea is like that. And my idea how to make it different looks on the right. So basically we introduce some API and then we put just front end on the side to work with it. There is some text here, you can probably read it later from the phone or from the QR code, but the main thing is just having separate UI gives you a whole bunch of pluses from having that, such as separations of concerns, so you can scale UI differently, you can keep local development simple, you can have different CI/CD process and so on and so on. And things Next.js is pretty much everywhere. I can't say very everywhere, but from what I've seen as kind of backend engineer, it's pretty much a lot of Next.js here. So that is why my further gonna be about Next.js. Feel free to throw some bananas at me afterwards about just covering Next.js. But again, this is about not about exactly WordPress or about Next.js. This is about putting things together. And in the very end, I will show you a diagram. And the idea is every part here is kind of interchangeable. You got me. So yeah. If you try to do simple research to the internet, you probably will find a website, Versal website, and they have an article about headless WordPress. So this slide here, just for the credit that I don't bring this plugin here by myself, but it was recommended by founders of Next.js. So the idea is there is a plugin called VP GraphQL. This is basically a very stable, very good plugin which you can install next to your WordPress installation. And what this plugin does, it enables GraphQL support for your WordPress installation. And this plugin pretty much very strong. And on top of that, it has a good community. And the thing is, it has a lot of extensions. So basically, once you install it, you can install your SEO add-on, which gives you coverability for SEO stuff. Then you can install WooCommerce add-on that gives you another extensions for part of WordPress that you can have as well. And by doing so far, it allows you to cover with GraphQL pretty much all the functionality you have in your installation. Which leads us to the next slide here. I just wanted to put this slide just to demonstrate how it's gonna look like. So basically, once you install this plugin, you will see in your admin panel the new icon with GraphQL IDE, where you can just test your queries, and you can then play with it on your local machine with your maybe JavaScript installation or something else. By doing so, you can do have some front-end framework like Next.js, right? And now you can develop it in a little bit different way. So instead of having all of this UI logic saved and rendered by WordPress, now you have it here with headless WordPress installation. You can have React rendering UI. You can do calls, API calls to WordPress by fetching the data. You can introduce your own caching policies. Oops, sorry. And you can develop your custom search, filtering, pagination, pretty much all of that. Yeah, so the basic request lifecycle is going to look like this, which is pretty much simple. And the idea is simple as it is. And now the question comes to, well, I assume that like basic Next.js installation or like covering all of those API calls pretty much a straightforward process. That is why I'm not trying to cover that part here and trying to fit all of this like in the time frame. So we jumping out like straight to the question, like if we have something like Next.js, how we want to host it so it's gonna work next to our WordPress installation. And the answer can be simple here. You can install it next to your WordPress, like on the same server, and you can handle it while running your own process, which is also like fine, and this is good, but you need to do all of that by yourself. You need to like set up some DevOps stuff, like run some scripts, maybe monitor it, and to do pretty much all of that together. On the other hand, there is virtual hosting, which is like pretty much de facto standard for running Next.js, because they made it, right? But that's not kind of like that interesting topic, because again, I have separate slides. We can discuss it like after, like during the question answer topic. But the interesting thing here is to go with something different and try to connect it to something like Cloudflare Workers. The reason I put it here like into a separate section below OpenNext provider is because by default Next.js like was adopted to work simultaneously like on Vercel, but for like runtime APIs like Cloudflare has Netlify, AWS, they have slightly different APIs, and therefore Next.js need to have like some kind of like an adapter to work with that. And this is what OpenNext provides. These three companies are like the company that contribute to the tool called OpenNext, and therefore like they are coming together. The reason I'm trying to present Cloudflare here is because they kind of like very popular tool. Pretty much everyone heard about it, and many famous clients are using Cloudflare as well, something like OpenAI, Discord, Shopify. But what's interesting, I guess, for all of you guys is that they have pretty much good free tier, which allows you to make maybe like some pet project or like cover your current website with decent load for free, and try all of those tools they have, and you're probably gonna enjoy it because like the way how it works and what kind of like possibilities it opens for you. I'm not trying to sell you Cloudflare. Again, it's gonna be like interchangeable, but the way like they have these free tiers really like made me really interested about it. Yeah, CDN is Cloudflare is not just CDN. They do a lot of cloud stuff at the moment. So they have workers, they have AI runners, they have databases, they have key value storages, and again, all of this is covered by their free tier, which is again is really nice at least to try. That is why, like in the first slide I mentioned, like this is gonna probably be a next hackathon project, because it's really interesting thing to discover. A quick slide about free tier. We probably can skip it for now, but really interesting. The thing is, we're gonna use Workers, Cloudflare Workers, and the good thing, they have 1,000 requests per day as a free tier. Workers gonna use key-value storage, which gives you 1 GB of storage plus 100,000 requests to it, plus free R2 storage, plus free queues. So R2 storage is like alternative to S3 from Amazon. We can continue this, but like there are a lot of tools there, and a lot of them gives you basic access for free, which is like much more advanced than the one you see from AWS, Vercel, and any other provider so far. So if we're not talking about pricing and just pricing, what good can Workers provide for you from Cloudflare? The basic and what I really like is they introduced zero cold starts. So if you think about workers maybe like as a tool, as like AWS Lambda, like something like serverless, usually it's all the time has some cold start. And the way the guys solve this problem is really like was something like new for me. I'm going to show you next slide. You will see about it. Also, what's good about Cloudflare, this is the same with what Vercel provides, is your workers serverless functions gonna be executed on edge servers, which means that if you're living like in one part of the world and like your main server is another part of the world, your function is going to be executed next to you, not at the like origin server, which also like improves the performance that your service provides, which is great. And again, like this is all made for free for you. They have a lot of built-in caching stuff, and all of this caching stuff is covered by OpenNext provider. Pretty much work the same way as it does on Vercel. But the good thing is you have API access to it, and you can control it in your own way, which is also like extra level of functionality for you. In terms of security, if we're talking about the like the whole line together, like with WordPress, Next.js, and Cloudflare, and this line like WordPress becomes an API not accessible to end users, and because of that, nobody can scan that you're using WordPress as like a production server, and therefore it reduces all the amount of attacks, all the amount of scans, and all the problem that you can possibly have with just a simple WordPress installation. And all of those cloud services, again, like they just there, and you can use it like if you need. So we just discussed it. So about cold starts, nobody solved this problem as Cloudflare does. The fun part is in the workers runtime, pretty much anywhere, like everyone tries to solve this problem differently, but the thing is, even if you run JavaScript with JavaScript runtime and you have all of those functions, the time to load each function takes a little bit of time, and there is no physical way to reduce cold start completely. But what these guys did is, because Cloudflare is also like a CDN and network provider, they listen for your request, and when you try to reach to your website, the first thing that happens between your browser and like Cloudflare servers is that TCP handshake and HTTPS certificates exchange happening, and this connection good enough for Cloudflare to understand that that request is going to come next to your worker, and because of that, they started heating up the workers function before the actual request happens, just because of this TCP handshake between you, your browser, and like Cloudflare CDN. And once all the handshakes bypassed and finished, and actual HTTP request reaches the server, at this moment, their runtime is already ready, and it's preheated and ready to like handle your request, which is like really was something very new to me, and kind of like great to see the way how they solve this problem. So basically, like this Cloudflare as provider and workers as serverless functions that can handle your Next.js server, you have some features like access to CDN cache, access to all the infrastructure. You can like call GraphQL queries, you can have separate CI/CD pipelines. There are a lot of things to discuss. I'm just like trying to jump between all of them and trying to fit into something simple, but we can probably like discuss it a little bit further just when more context is introduced. Yeah, so this slide I already told you that Next.js natively doesn't run on like any third-party provider, so you can just run it like as Node.js server, but if you want to use serverless functions, you need to have some kind of like adoption layer. And for things like Cloudflare, like there is OpenNext here. And this is how it's gonna look like in the very end once you have everything installed and set up. So basically, when user makes a request, the request goes to Cloudflare and Edge server, which then can be handled by Edge HTTP cache, which can reduce the amount of queries that actually made to the final function. On the function level, also, like there is initialization of your function, but the good thing here is you can OpenNext by default uses built-in Cloudflare features like R2 storage and key value storage to store all the cache there. And by default, just introducing few lines of code, you can say cache my code for like cache my response for 60 seconds and just return me the final response and just give it as it is, which is also great. And in this case, WordPress becomes just an origin server, and you can reach it only in the situations when you need actual content update. On the other hand, you also can control it from WordPress side, and you can invalidate cache once you do some page updates or like something that like happens from your WordPress admin panel side. And yeah, now like you can affect several layers of cache just to reduce the amount of workload to your final WordPress server. You can tell the proper headers to cache it on browser side. You can tell Cloudflare's Edge server to cache it itself on its side. Next.js inside the worker can introduce its own cache, and after that you can also like invalidate GraphQL cache like by using calls from WordPress admin panel. Here's an example of code, how it can look like and how you can structure your code to make queries to GraphQL API on the WordPress side, and how this can look from your Next.js code just to make it work. Again, like it's probably like you can't see like what's written here. I hope you open it to your phone, like and the QR code. Like if not, you can do it later. Another example like of CI/CD pipeline. So basically, once you start working with Cloudflare, like you can use the integrations, and they have very good integrations with GitHub. So by default, they can connect to your repository hooks, and they can listen for all the updates you do. So for you as an engineer, once you push some code and some updates, it's basically cached automatically and like deployed to your website without any kind of like your attention or like intervention. And the way, once it's all deployed and you can see like it's working, there is a dashboard like from Cloudflare, and you can see like a little bit of statistic, a little bit of metrics where like requests coming from, and just have benefits of all of this set up together. So basically like CI/CD for free, front-end hosting for free, CDN cache Edge servers for free, front-end statistic for free, sorry about this. DDoS protection because they do HTTPS serving and CDN serving for your website, and you even can block WordPress access from only certain like IP list, whitelist, or like you can allow like and introduce some kind of like VPN that's only can be accessible either like via workers APIs, workers functions, or like through your like whitelisted IPs, which also like provides you an extra layer of protection and infrastructure. I tried to make it short. I guess I just in time,
You're
right?
in time, yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. That was very useful. I worked with WordPress for so many years, and I know the themes and the plugins can be such a mess. This is kind of a nice, clean way to do it. I love their content stuff, but yeah, not the themes and plugins. Does anyone have any questions? Cool, starting here.
Yeah. So the question I have is because we used a very similar approach when we were rebuilding the marketing website of Perk. We were using lambdas at edge and everything. And one of the problems that we found, which I'm not sure if you have found the same and if you have solved it, is that when you're caching in the lambda, in the edge nodes essentially, in the end, the caching doesn't really matter because unless you have a lot, and I mean a lot of calls from like the same node, let's say like people who are in California or something like that, and they're reaching exactly the same node, the caching doesn't really do anything because if you have people accessing from all over the world, in the end it will all go to the origin server. Because the caching, for it to be effective, it will need to, like you will need to have a lot of use, like the caching, otherwise it will just go away. Because we thought like, oh, as long as nothing is going to evict it from the cache, it will stay there. But what happens is the cache is shared. So in the end, like if you have pages that are not really accessed, like most of them will be out of the cache, and then like the whole point of caching is like it's gone essentially. I don't know if you have found that problem, if you solved it.
Good question. Yes. No, like unfortunately, like I haven't solved that. I haven't deployed this kind of like this approach to something like big enough to see kind of problem like you mentioned right now. Well, you need, I mean, not you, like, I mean, to the whole audience, like, you need to understand that what kind of like of website you're doing and what kind of like interaction is going on. For example, if it's like a blog, which has like static pages that just like gonna go like to the user without like a lot of updates, you can cache it completely like for forever or like for kind of like a decent amount of time and just keep it as it is. For example, this works well if you have a lot of users like with user login, with kind of like cart, like some kind of like shop, and maybe some kind of like tags, you know, like when you buy something like and you're just trying to apply all of those filters, there is no way it's gonna be, you know, I mean, useful trying to apply cache to those filters in the way this kind of like solution can help you, because at this moment you need to consider something like on the database level or like maybe on the backend level to handle this in a proper way, because this is just not like the best match for kind of like very dynamic elements. If it's kind of, you know, like if we consider like situation where we have like WordPress websites like for maybe majority of people where it's just a blog, and they just want to serve their content, maybe some comments and maybe some user intervention, like just to get to some private area and download some content. I guess you still can manage it pretty much effectively because there is not much things to invalidate, and there are simple ways you can do this by tags. Invalidate by tags, for example. So you can introduce some logic on the WordPress site, and once something is updated, you can trigger a call either to your function, or you can have direct access to cache and just invalidate it directly, and remove the cache, what is missing, like what you want to remove, and then like during the next call, it just gonna be like requested and like cached or like work like that. If I'm following your question, like I believe this is the answer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
More questions?
I didn't catch your name.
Alex.
Thank you. My question is in regards to WordPress being the content management aspect. So say, for example, you've built a website with a system set up for a client who maybe isn't too technical, and going forward they want to write their blog posts, manage their pages. Are there any additional configuration or steps that you need to take, for example, to make the WYSIWYG editor compatible with your React components, so that when they're making the page together, it's using what you want it to use?
Yeah, basically, like it's a great question. Like this is what I struggled a little bit, but once you have one render made well, then like it works fine. Like I mean, basically like what WordPress editor produces, like pretty much simple output. Like I mean, it's kind of like editable, so you can insert it into React component like and render it like as it is, just wrap it properly and it should work. Like there is nothing special unless your client wants to kind of like have some nice tables, you know, like kind of like they say, I want this plugin that renders some charts for me, or like I want this kind of thing that do like some any other fancy stuff. Like at this moment you need to struggle a little bit and just trying to adapt all of those outputs just to render properly. But this is kind of like trade-off you pay by having like a separate front-end solution instead of like something like WordPress native based or like kind of UI builders that they sell in like all the time.
Any more questions?
So from what I understand, you just use WordPress as a CMS basically, and the Next.js project as a front end. So my question was like about a thing I was a bit confused about. Why GraphQL?
Okay.
Why GraphQL is necessary in this chain, in this stack? Can't you just like use traditional REST APIs if WordPress have any? I just don't know, I haven't worked with WordPress.
Yeah, basically you're right. WordPress has built-in REST API and it works pretty much well. The problem is that if you need to render some page in front end and it consists of like different entities, you need to make like 1, 2, 3, like 5 requests to get all of this together. You can try to do this asynchronously, and this can work. Like there is no like issue with this. It's just kind of like a convenience when you want to have everything together. Like I wish you could see this slide better, but like when you do this call here, you basically can get information about the post itself. You can get the information about the SEO stuff, it tags, and like for example featured image that can like be a separate call just to get it from like WordPress database. So instead of like one call you need to do like maybe 3 or 4, and this is kind of like the convenience you're trying to solve by introducing this plugin.
Okay, yeah, so it is possible to use REST. GraphQL is just more of a convenience or like a preference.
Yeah, you're right. Basically, I mean, again, you can like this problem, I'm not trying to solve this problem like in only this way. You can change like backend part, you can change like the way like you can introduce your own API. You can install Laravel next to WordPress. You can like do calls to database and render it like as a separate API. This is also works. You can write like you can connect directly to database with like Next.js and render it as it is. You can install Hasura over your database and like query it instead of like WordPress like core. So there are a whole bunch of different ways how to solve it. It's just like one of kind of like solutions I was thinking like that you guys as like JavaScript community would like to hear.
Okay, thank you.
I do have examples. Yeah, so basically like just to continue to your question, I just made a few examples how you can handle the problem. And the thing is like you can use WordPress as a backend like Next.js and like Cloudflare Workers, or for example you can use Ljupche and use it like with Next.js handled on AWS stack. Like this is also works. So OpenNext provides you wrappers that allows you to deploy it instead of Cloudflare in case you're working in a big company and like they don't want to use Cloudflare but they have AWS already installed. So this means you can just try to propose this as kind of like a proof of concept to try to work on and just play with it as a kind of like hackathon or kind of like an idea to investigate.
Hi there. First of all, thank you for the talk. Not to sell everyone on Cloudflare even more, but you talked about whitelisting the WP admin, like the admin panel. Have you tried Cloudflare Access? as a service, and you can kind of like whitelist by email address domain. It's actually quite useful too.
No, like my answer is no, but
Okay.
I kind of like, the more I reading about it, the way like during the preparing this presentation, every time I like read like another blog post, I was like, wait, they can do this and they can do that. They have workflows. It's kind of like UI where you can put Cloudflare Workers in a kind of like a chain, and they can work together. And in case like if something is failing, they will try to retry to run these workers like by themselves. In our company, like in teaching strategies, we're using the VPN, Warp VPN, just to like limit access to our infrastructure. And this is also like a great tool. Before we had another VPN, and this was like just pain in the ass. Just switching to this solution was really great. Out of the box, they have HTTP, like they have DNS, and like if you just bring your domain to Cloudflare, they will give you like HTTP certificate for free, HTTPS certificate for free, and you don't need to worry about rotating it or like have any pain like with any kind of like maintenance of this certificate, and so on and so on. I mean, they kind of like do a lot of interesting things, and like as a backend engineer and like kind of like DevOps interesting guy, you can just dive deeper into this hole, and like it's kind of like feels like never ends with kind of like cool things that they have.
Yeah, it's really cool, products that they have. Specifically with the Cloudflare Access, you can like whitelist certain IPs. For everyone else, that will get like a Cloudflare page comes up and says enter your email address, and if the email address matches a certain pattern, they'll get sent like a 6-digit code that they have to enter to then get in for like 7 days until they get the code again. So yeah, it's quite cool.
I will try to do this to the end of the.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
Cool. One last question, and then we'll wrap up.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear some use cases where this solution has worked really well. Because there was one time, it reminds me of when you were speaking about edge caching, that I had a WordPress site, WooCommerce, and the guy really wanted it to be faster. And so we did some Cloudflare edge caching, and then that worked most of the time. But then as soon as the user logged in, then everything was coming from the database again. And so that like slowed things down. So it was just like all these challenges about how to make it faster. But with Cloudflare, you can, like if it's just a little 5-page website where the content's not changing at all, you just put Cloudflare in front of it and it's like super fast straight away, and you wouldn't need to do any of this. But sorry, it's quite a long last question. It'd be interesting to hear like a use case where like, because putting Next.js there is quite like, it's not a straight ahead thing to do. Like off the bat, like most WordPress people are just wanting a little 5-page website. But if you have like, for example, a WooCommerce site, then it's like, okay, there could be some benefit to using this, GraphQL plugin, and I don't know how straight ahead it is to do that.
Yeah, indeed. Like it's a tough question because in your case, you're trying to have like fully dynamic website. With like you saying like about like kind of like a shop, right, or like kind of like stuff like that, and pretty much everything there is dynamic. Cloudflare is kind of like not a magic, right? So like it does something that can help you speed up some things. Like if there is something that can be cached or like requested through like Edge server, right, or something like that, this can be speed up. Like it's a good thing. What I used like in the past. Like they have S3 compatible storage, and basically like there is a plugin available which you can connect to your admin WordPress installation, that instead of uploading into VP uploads directory, it's gonna upload it into Cloudflare, and you can make kind of like CDN from that, which will help you to reduce at least image downloads. But if you want to have like Next.js stuff, like it also depends on complexity. If you take some pretty much already made template and you try to use like some kind of like vibe coding stuff, it can help you adapt everything to it, and like especially if you're talking about 5 pages like website, you can basically make it with Codex, or the whole presentation can be done like with Codex, like that. But the thing is, like once it goes deeper and the bottleneck is database and like WordPress server, maybe in this case you need to consider the way optimizing like that part first. But if you go like with for example, front-end, separate front-end, you need to develop separate front-end. You need to introduce all the functions, all the kind of like buttons and like all the things. It's better to have some kind of like predefined template first before you go this path. But again, like, I mean, it won't solve all of your issues. It's not kind of like a silver bullet. So like if you just come back to your home, like, and just put it like, and it will solve pretty much everything. You just lie and like, and sit on the bed, like clicking TV and just enjoy it. But yeah, like there are some trade-offs you need to consider and like the ways to like approach particular problem. We can discuss it further, like if you want, like.
Yeah, that's cool.
Brilliant. I think that wraps up for tonight since we're exactly on time. So thank you very much for your talk. Cheers.
Thank you. Can I just take a minute?
What?
1 minute more.
1 minute more? Sure, go.
So like, I just put like a few slides on top of that. There is live preview button available for this plugin. It runs in container like next to WordPress website. So in case you're curious about this, you can just press live preview and it will load in a separate window with pretty much everything installed. You can play with queries and see how it goes. I was expecting you to ask me about Versal, but let's skip it for now. There is another cool, like nice tool for front-end, kind of like static front-end, Cloudflare pages. But yep, and if you decide to go like with Cloudflare Workers, they built a lot of community around it, and they have a lot of examples you can try to play, which are already pre-made. So some examples where workers connect to database, another example of like Next.js starter pack, LLM chat application like Postgres plus workers, etc. There is a full SaaS starter kit available as well. You can try to check like via the link. And yeah, there are different ways to like cook WordPress properly. There are guys, they name like Roots.io, and this is their website. And they introduced a lot of cool things like Bedrock, Sage, Trellis, and there is a way like to connect Laravel to WordPress teams. There is also like the way to handle it in kind of like proper way with all the correct approaches, like not the way like default WordPress does it. So if you're interested, again, like go ahead and check those slides, maybe Google some of these technologies, maybe you will enjoy them. Again, the QR code is in the very beginning. Just give me a second. Sorry, I should put it in the end. Yep, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. So, hey everybody who I've not met before, I'm Jamie, I organise EdinburghJS. Thank you for your talk. It was wonderful. Thank you for Ljupche for hosting. Thank you to Perk for sponsoring us, so they pay for the pizza and drinks. They are hiring. Scan the QR code if you want any more information. Just a couple of sort of community notices. Just there behind Alan, who's doing the live stream, there's a banner for Scottish Technology Club. Basically, every Monday I sit down and I write a newsletter. In that newsletter are all the tech events that I find this week across Scotland, community kind of blog posts or vlogs. So if people have been writing their blog about a technical subject, I add that in, and jobs. So people ask me about jobs occasionally, either because they want work or because they have got a job or opportunity for people. So I put that up there on the website and in the bulletin. So sign up for that. There's also a Discord community, which is now kind of reasonably active. There's probably about 800 people in there. So if you've got a kind of development question or you want to promote your new portfolio or whatever, just post it in there. Now, one thing to say about this is that for the meetups now, people can buy supporters tickets, so they can chip in £4, £5 to come along in the evening. And there's also a Patreon for people who can sign up for a monthly contribution. Now, I've just been accumulating that money for probably the best part of a year now, and we've decided to spend some of that money. So next month we are paying for Sarah Vieira to come up from London, so just paying her travel up and her hotel for the night, and she's going to be speaking about writing emulators in JavaScript. So that's sure to be a really excellent talk. You can sign up now on the Luma or the Meetup to attend that. I will be hitting the announce button tomorrow. So if you're desperate for a place, go and sign up this evening. And I just wanted to highlight that as if you're contributing, then that means that we get higher profile speakers to come to Edinburgh. There are people out there that would come if their expenses can be covered. And I think it's kind of really good use of £3 or £4. You know, maybe once or twice a year we'll be able to do that. So please do check it out. Give me feedback on what you want to see in the site, and I'm happy to implement it. I think that's all for the evening. The usual pub we go to is closed, so we're going to go to the Hanging Bat tonight instead. A few people, I'm assuming, will lead the way there, so just latch onto them, and I think 1 or 2 people will hang out in the end and help tidy the office. Thank you for coming. Hope to see you next month. Cheers.